Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip arrived Friday, greeted by Lieutenant Governor Frederick Johnson. The royal tour is designed to foster understanding and enthusiasm for the monarchy's role in Saskatchewan affairs.
2,500 people greeted the royal couple in front of the Legislative Building, decorated for its 75th anniversary. Inside, the Queen unveiled a plaque to commemorate the building's official opening on October 12, 1912.
This is the royal couple's 5th visit to Saskatchewan. It will be longer than any other, and it's also unique because of the educational role the Queen will play while she's here, teaching Saskatchewan's youth about our
spoke to the province's young people, portraying Saskatchewan as a miniature version of her Commonwealth, a society of diverse cultures bonded by shared interests.
Saskatchewan has a tradition of respect, indeed enthusiasm, for cultural diversity. The Crown represents the basic political ideals which all Canadians share. These ideals are guaranteed by a common loyalty through the sovereign to community and country.
I think it was very symbolic, and it was a very meaningful event for the people of Saskatchewan because it showed the uniqueness of the form of government which we have in this country, one that has been developed by Canadians over the years, but it shows how integral and how important the Crown is to our type of government in the province. Not only does the representative of the Crown represent the Queen, but the representative of the Crown represents the people of that particular province. The Queen's representative is to ensure that the government of the day will use that power granted to it by the people of the province in a proper manner.
June 3rd, 1939, a day to remember for Canada's royal visitors. In Melville, a 10-minute stopover draws a crowd of 60,000, 15 times the town's population. The King and Queen, obviously impressed with the reception, leave the dais to shake hands with the crowd.
And I was very close to the train when Queen Elizabeth and King George VI came out on the platform at the rear car of the train. And I cheered along with everybody else, and never did I realize at the time that someday I would be representing their daughter as the Lieutenant Governor in Saskatchewan.
When the 1939 royal tour is first suggested, Prime Minister Mackenzie King is asked if formal invitations have been sent to King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. His response? This is their home. They need no invitations. Canada's King and Queen have indeed come home. It is the first time a reigning monarch has set foot on Canadian soil. But something is significant about this visit, particularly to Canada. November 1926. Mackenzie King is in London to meet with other Commonwealth Prime Ministers. Point of discussion? The Balfour Report, by former British Prime Minister Lord Balfour. The report recommends full nationhood for the Dominions, including Canada. They are autonomous communities within the British Empire, the report says, equal in status. According to the Balfour Report, the Governor-General will represent the Crown, but no longer the British government.
So that changes the role of the Crown significantly. It no longer is political in the kind of everyday sense of the term. It becomes purely constitutional, purely formal, in symbolic. And so the Crown then is there to represent the King, and even more than that, to represent kingly virtues in the system. And those are not seen to be, those are not rooted in a nationality.
In 1931, the Statute of Westminster formally recognizes the independence of the Dominions. Canada has emerged as a sovereign nation. Tuesday, May 12, 1937. Flags, bunting, and streamers are hard to find as people across Saskatchewan decorate their homes and offices. In swift current, they roast an ox for the occasion. There's a parade in Broadview. In Regina, thousands are turned away from a packed stadium. It is the coronation of George VI. Lights burn and radios hum as people listen to the centuries-old ceremony in London's Westminster Abbey. But a new note has been added.
The King, in his oath of office, mentioned by name each of the dominions. He became King of Canada as definitely as he became King of Great Britain.
June 2nd, 1953, London, England. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police are part of a procession in the rain, celebrating another coronation. A 25-year-old princess is crowned queen. Her title, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God of the United Kingdom, Canada, and her other realms and territories, Queen.
The Queen was Canadian in law and perception and constitutional terms. She was not a citizen of Great Britain. She was not a foreigner. I mean, sometimes again people say, well, how can you have a head of state who's a foreigner? Well, the answer constitutionally is she's not a foreigner. She's the Queen of Canada.
April 17th, 1982. On Parliament Hill in Ottawa, Queen Elizabeth signs the Royal Proclamation of the Constitution Act, 1982, cutting Canada's last colonial tie with Great Britain. No longer do changes to the Canadian Constitution have to be passed by the British Parliament, and yet the role of the monarchy in Canada is not diminished. If anything, it has been reinforced. From now on, any changes to the status of the monarchy in Canada require the consent of Parliament and all 10 provincial legislatures. Canada's system of government has 3 main characteristics. Canada is a parliamentary democracy. We elect people to represent us in the House of Commons in Ottawa.
All those in favor of the motion will please rise.
And in our provincial legislative assemblies.
Ministerial statements?
We leave it to them to pass our laws. Some of these elected representatives from the party commanding a majority in the elected House are selected to serve in the Cabinet, the executive branch of government. They are called ministers. In the system of responsible government, Cabinet must maintain the confidence of a majority of the elected members of the House of Commons or Legislative Assembly. Canada is also a federal state. The seat of the federal government is in Ottawa. There are also governments in each of the 10 provincial capitals and the territories. Together, federal and provincial governments are co-sovereign. That is, they are both responsible for governing Canada. Some responsibilities they share, others are theirs alone. The territories have many of the powers of provinces. Finally, Canada is a constitutional monarchy. The Prime Minister or Premier is head of government, but the Queen is formally head of state, reigning over Canada's parliamentary democracy and federal state. While the government of Canada is carried out in the Queen's name, she herself does not govern. The Crown embodies government exercised day to day by the federal and provincial cabinets. The Queen is personally represented in Canada for purposes of the federal government by the Governor-General. For purposes of Saskatchewan and the other provinces, she is represented by the Lieutenant Governors. Since the arrival of the Europeans with John Cabot in 1497, Canadians have lived under a form of monarchy. Royal representatives have given us an uninterrupted link to the beginnings of Europe emigration to Canada.
New France, Quebec, fell in 1759, but by 1763, the Peace of Paris made provision for New France to become a British colony. It simply